Next, young Sheldon, returning character in First Marriage, explains Mary's Big Bang Theory downfall. CBS young Sheldon has spent 7 seasons weaving a rich tapestry of the Cooper family's history, recontextualizing almost every quirk, joke, and revelation that the Big Bang Theory once played for laughs. With the show heading into its final stretch, fans are speculating about which characters might return for the highly anticipated First Marriage storyline tease for the upcoming season. One name keeps rising to the top, a character from Sheldon's youth whose reappearance could illuminate the single biggest unresolved question about Mary Cooper: how she became the deeply conflicted, judgmental yet devout mother we met in the Big Bang Theory. That question has always haunted fans. How does the affectionate, if occasionally exasperated, Mary of young Sheldon transform into the rigidly moralistic, sometimes cold version of herself in TBBT? And what if the answer isn't only Sheldon's fault, but also tied to a returning figure from his past, a figure connected to George Jr.'s first marriage arc? This narrative turn could finally explain Mary's downfall from the relatable, complex matriarch of young Sheldon to the almost caricatured church mom of the Big Bang Theory. The First Marriage setup. Season 7 of young Sheldon left George Jr.'s love life dangling on a cliffhanger. Mandy gave birth to their baby Cease, but the two still haven't fully defined their relationship beyond co-parenting. Yet executive producers have teased a marriage storyline early in the next season, a storyline that doesn't necessarily mean a fairy tale wedding for George Jr. and Mandy. Longtime fans know George Jr. marries young and at least twice before TBBT even begins, so his first marriage could easily involve another woman entirely. This is where a returning character could come into play. Bringing back someone like Veronica Duncan, the rebellious, good-hearted teen who bonded with Georgie in earlier seasons, wouldn't just be a nostalgic nod. It would be a narrative powder keg. Veronica represented Georgie's first big crush, but she also embodied Mary's hopes that faith and good influences might save her kids. Seeing Veronica back in Georgie's orbit, perhaps as the woman he hastily marries, would directly challenge Mary's belief in her own moral guidance. And if that first marriage ends badly, as canon says it must, it could be the traumatic event that hardens Mary, pushes her deeper into the church, and sets her on the path to becoming the judgmental mother we meet in TBBT. Veronica's potential return. Veronica's last appearance was brief, but memorable. The girl, once headed down a delinquent path, returned as a seemingly reformed Christian teen, sparking Mary's pride and Georgie's infatuation. She represented Mary's ideal redemption story, proof that church could change lives. Bringing her back now, older and more complicated, would invert that arc. Imagine a season 8 premiere where Georgie reconnects with Veronica at a youth ministry event. She's no longer the pure church girl Mary once admired. She's worldly, ambitious, maybe even a little disillusioned. Georgie, always eager to prove he's grown up, could propose impulsively. Mary might initially approve, convinced Veronica is still her success story, only to watch both young people crumble under the weight of marriage, parenthood, and adult responsibilities. Such a storyline wouldn't just create dramatic tension for Georgie and Veronica, it would devastate Mary's worldview. The one person she used as an example of God's plan would now symbolize its failure. In that heartbreak, we could see the seeds of Mary's future cynicism and her reliance on rigid dogma as a defense mechanism. Mary's character shift between shows. On The Big Bang Theory, Mary Cooper is loving, but she's also frequently judgmental, hypocritical, and bluntly dismissive of Sheldon's friends, especially Leonard and Amy. She weaponizes her faith to guilt Sheldon, sees his intellect as a source of pride but also something vaguely dangerous, and occasionally cracks jokes about smacking the smart out of him. This is not the same Mary who, on young Sheldon, fiercely defends Sheldon's uniqueness at school board meetings or bends church rules to let her children find their own way. Fans have long debated what changed. Was it George's death? Georgie's string of failed relationships? Missy's rebellious streak? Or some larger social shift that left Mary feeling stranded? The show has danced around these questions, but the upcoming First Marriage plotline is the perfect crucible to finally show that change in real time. By linking Mary's transformation to Georgie's mistakes, especially if those mistakes involve someone Mary once held up as a paragon, the writers can give Mary's later judgmental behavior real emotional weight. She's not just the church lady anymore. She's a grieving, disappointed mother who overcorrected after her children's lives spun out of control. The downfall is a gradual decline. If young Sheldon is going to honor its parent series, Mary's downfall can't be a single event. It has to be a gradual erosion of the optimism we've seen for 7 seasons. George S.R.'s looming death will obviously play a part, but that alone doesn't explain her increased rigidity. After all, grief can make people softer as easily as it can make them harsher. The first marriage plotline could be the tipping point that accelerates this change. Watching Georgie, her eldest, the one she thought she'd saved, repeat her own marital mistakes would be crushing. Seeing Veronica, her success story, collapse under adult pressures could make Mary question whether faith can change anything at all. Faced with that crisis, Mary might double down on rules and church attendance, not out of devotion but out of fear. This approach also recontextualizes her treatment of Sheldon in TBBT. By the time he's an adult, Mary may see his atheism not as a rebellion, but as a personal failure, her inability to guide even her special child. Her jokes about his science or his going to hell remarks would then be less snark and more pain disguised as humor. What this means for the Big Bang Theory canon, a Veronica-driven first marriage storyline would neatly explain several long-standing canon details. Georgie's quick, doomed marriage. We know from TBBT he marries young and divorces, showing that as a hasty decision rooted in nostalgia and religious expectation would fit perfectly. Mary's hypocrisy. On TBBT, she warns Sheldon about sin while excusing Georgie's bad behavior. In this new light, she may be overcompensating for past mistakes, trying to fix Sheldon because she couldn't fix Georgie. Mary's eventual distance from Sheldon. In TBBT, she's loving but not particularly involved in Sheldon's adult life. If her faith community becomes her primary support system after Georgie's first marriage implodes, that distance makes sense. Sheldon's distrust of religion. Seeing his mother's faith curdle into something controlling and joyless could explain why adult Sheldon is so dismissive of religion in general. A richer, darker Mary. What makes this potential storyline exciting is that it doesn't villainize Mary. Instead, it paints her as a tragic figure, someone who tried to do everything right, saw her children slip through her fingers anyway, and clung to the only anchor she knew, her faith. By showing how that anchor turned into a weight, young Sheldon can elevate Mary from a sitcom stereotype to one of television's most fully realized mothers. It also gives Zoe Perry, who has already earned praise for her nuanced performance, a chance to play the slow burn of a woman unraveling. We could watch Mary's optimism fade episode by episode, the little sighs, the sharper rebukes, the longer hours at church, until she becomes the woman Laurie Metcalf portrayed years earlier. Beyond Veronica, other possible returning characters. Of course, Veronica isn't the only candidate. The show could also bring back characters like Pastor Jeff, or even adult versions of other youth group friends, to underscore how Mary's spiritual community evolves or fractures over time. But Veronica's arc is uniquely suited to mirror Mary's. Both started as rebellious souls saved by church, both invested hope in Georgie, and both stand at crossroads as adulthood looms. If the writers choose someone else, the key will still be tying that person's reappearance to Mary's emotional journey. The first marriage plotline can't just be Georgie's story. It has to be Mary's too. The payoff. When The Big Bang Theory first introduced Mary Cooper, she was an emos tragic,